Hello and welcome to day 5 of my 12 Days of Christmas series. Today I'm going to be showing how to make this Christmas blended night sky using some ink from Tim Holts. We've got the spice marmalade, seedless preserves, mustard seed and fired brick. So I'm just starting with the lightest, with the mustard seed, and I'm using a mini ink blender to put that onto the paper, then coming in with my next darkest colour, and I then went to the very darkest colour and then added the fired brick in the middle to blend that. I'm just going to go over each of those lines with the ink blending tool just to blend them out, and I think this colour combination gives a really nice nighttime sky. So I have sped you up quite a bit for this. I worked at it for a while to make sure it was blended beautifully, and I really like the way that that turned out. So I think are really nice for creating these ink blended backgrounds. So over the top of this I'm going to use some Simon Says stamp dies that I've just placed on a piece of post-it tape, and I've ran that through my die cutting machine with some black cardstock. And I'm just going to join the cut lines of each of these little houses and the two kind of Christmas trees on the end there, so it looks as though they're set into a hillside. I'm going to cut those apart with my craft knife and then take away the extra cardstock and just poke out any of those window holes that didn't cut all the way through. So I'm using my Misty now to do some stamping, and I'm actually going to use a woodblock stamp. So I'm just going to peel off the red rubber on this woodblock stamp, and I found that it doesn't damage the stamp at all, and it's actually not sticky, so it won't leave kind of a whole mess on the Misty tool. So you just close that as you would with any unmounted cling stamp, ink it up, bring it over and press it down. So the great advantage of using the Misty tool is that your paper is perfectly held in place, so you can re-ink and stamp again to get a really crisp black ink impression, just to make sure that that is exactly how you want it to look on your card. So to remount this stamp, I'm just going to place that rubber back onto the block, and the sticky residue is left on the block, and there's enough of a grip there to take that stamp back. So now I'm just doing the same thing with my Merry Christmas sentiment. This was a sentiment that I got free with a Papercrafts magazine here in the UK, and I'm just inking that up a couple of times and pressing that down to make sure it's a really crisp image. There's a little bit of texture to that watercolour paper, which is why I'm needing to stamp multiple times. So to make it look like there are some lights on inside of these nighttime houses, I've just got some inexpensive some inexpensive yellow paper, and I'm just tracing around that, and I'm going to cut that just slightly smaller than those die cuts. Once I've got that all cut out, I can place some glue onto the back of the die cuts and then stick that behind the black. I just want to make sure that when you look through the windows of those houses, there is a yellow kind of background there instead of seeing straight through to the night sky. I think it's a really nice touch for that nighttime sky. So once I've got that all finished, I'm just going to take my Distress ink again, this time in the black soot colour, and just ink the edges of the inked panel that we just created to give it some definition and just to finish off those edges. I think it's a nice way to frame any ink blended background, just to run a dark colour around the edges. So I cut some stencils out of some stencil paper, and some masks out of some mask paper, and I'm placing those down onto the card as I'm going to use a stencil. This is the Simon Says stamp Falling Snow stencil, and I'm going to use that along with some clear embossing paste. I don't have a white embossing paste. If I did, then I would have used that, but as I don't, I'm just going to mix in some white pigment ink to make a white stencil, and I'm also going to mix in some iridescent glitter. I think that's a really nice way to add some glitter to your kind of Christmas themed projects, as the glitter will sink into the embossing powder. It will be perfectly mixed in, so you know that it will stay firmly on your card, and it's just a really nice way to mix that in. Now you could use a coloured glitter, you could use some red glitter to create maybe on some stars or some other Christmas decorations, and I think that's something that I'm going to be trying this year. So I'm just smoothing the embossing paste over the top of the stencil, making sure it's all covered. I've avoided the areas where I've masked off my stamping, but just in case I accidentally put some embossing paste on those sections, I can peel off the mask and you would never know. So I've just lifted off that mask and I'm going to set that aside to dry. One thing that I will say when you're working with the embossing paste is to make sure that everything gets cleaned off really quickly, as once that dries onto your stencil or your craft knife, it will be really difficult to remove. So I've just added some foam dots onto the back of my little kind of village set that I've got there, and I've peeled off the masks. And I'm just going to place that down onto the ink blended background to set that into place. I think this is a really nice card that you can mass produce quite quickly and quite easily, especially if you follow a kind of a production line, so you do all your die cutting in one go, all of your ink blending in one go, and that really helps to make it go quicker. So I'm using my corner chomper now just to round the edges of the panel that we've created, and also the edges of a black 4 1/4 note card which I've created with some black Samancer stamp cardstock. Just to add a little bit of extra dimension to the card, I'm going to take some 3D foam tape and place that on the back of the ink blended panel, just to pop that up and give the card a little bit of extra interest. You could remove this step and have a 1-layer card if that's the effect that you're looking for, or if you wanted to save yourself some time and just do that ink blending straight onto a white note card. I really like the black inked edges of the ink blended panel and the black cardstock together. I think it frames up the card really nicely. So there you have it, the nighttime Christmas sky with some glittery embossed snow. Thank you for joining me for day 5, and I hope to see you back again on Tuesday for day 6, where I'll be sharing some easy to make paper Christmas ornaments, and I'm going to have a helper with me as well. I'll see you then. Bye!